So in my last video, Gordo6908 explained that he couldn't get Eastern Kingdoms into War Smash, which obviously, what does that even mean? And so we were trying to make a video for WoW 3 The Frozen Throne inside of War Smash. Whatever that is, making up that concept, I'm trying to get it to go. To help me get that to do that, one of the things I did is I set up the game and I tried running it. And so you might have seen that before. Let's see if this still runs. Cool. So here I have the game, and I go and I click on Custom Game, and I choose a map, any map, like Dark Forest. I choose some civilization, you know, I could be the Night Elves, I could be whatever I want. We click play on that, we get into a map, and then after we get into the map, we should be able to press Alt-Z to play World of Warcraft instead of Warcraft 3. Maybe. Okay, great. So here's my Night Elf base. Now if I press Alt-Z, here next to my elf base, I have a high elf character to run around as. How much fun is that? So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, there used to be colliding with buildings. You know, it was like you could actually run into the tree over here, but I'm not sure that still works. This stuff seems broken. Oh yeah, I actually can't jump in there. It does bump into it, but it's not really how you think it would go. But anyway, yeah, so this you can probably only get up by jumping, which is also quite silly, that hill steepness becomes a factor on these. But anyway, so here's, you know, okay, WoW 3 The Frozen Throne. Now, we don't seem to have the user interface loading, so I don't have like my bags and items and stuff, right? So that obviously seems like a bit of a problem. But the fundamental system has started running. There might have also been some lag there as I did that. I wonder, one of my other videos, we actually made the sheeps have wander, but I don't think they have wander yet in this one because the code version used for this is a slightly older build of War Smash, which is unfortunate. We should probably merge it for fun at some point, but I don't know if I'm going to do that right now. Yeah, I guess what I was interested to see, now I don't have the mini-map, so you would obviously wish probably also that you would have the World of Warcraft mini-map with this. That would be really cool, because I was curious if there's anywhere to go that's particularly interesting in this. I don't have this Warcraft 3 map memorized. So sometimes this is like a land bridge. Sometimes you would have a bridge that was better than this. Also, this might be the kind of world where if you jump in the water, you can't get back out, which is kind of funny. I didn't program swimming, you know, so in World of Warcraft, your character would actually swim, but now I'm just stuck. I'm a guy stuck in a puddle over here, and I can't get out. Oh, maybe I can get out. Wait. I could like run up that one, just like wall jump. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, maybe this is where you get stuck in the water, and then what was that? I don't know what I was stuck on. You get stuck in the water, and at some point, you just jump off. There's very grainy, pixelated water, by the way. I think it looks like in at least some areas, perhaps when it gets further than a certain distance away, I seem to be doing, we're rendering the raw pixels instead of rendering a smooth, interpolated thing of the pixel, which I think is unfortunate. Anyway, I'm curious if you jump off. Oh, it's like World of Warcraft. You try to jump off the end and it's over. Okay. So yeah, anyway, the stuff from last night is working. Now, I am also curious. I've got a really loud machine running in the background today. It might make some noise, but hopefully we can still hear me talk. Cool. So, like I said, there's some kind of machine in the background making some noise. Definitely I have that. But I tried running this. It seems to work. We don't have the UI, and we don't have Eastern Kingdoms. And I think what it sounded like is our friend Gordo, he wanted to go to the Eastern Kingdoms, and he wanted the user interface. So we can kind of try to do those problems separately. I think the interface is probably the harder of the two, because if we go to the third-person UI that's loading the interface, I'm guessing it's turned off. Yeah, okay. If false, load the interface of the frame XML. So we can put in that if true, and we can say, okay, now we're just always going to load it. But then you got to think about, well, where else is that going to fail? So there was something else about mouse press, perhaps. Mouse down, UI frame. The sound seems to be turned off. I don't quite know. Is that one broken, or is that... How recently was that commented out, you know? Can we show annotations? Oh, I don't seem to have annotations on this. That's weird. Well, okay, so we don't have the annotations, but we could maybe try to turn on the sound, I guess. Wondering, get sound key. And on click. Scroll bar frame, glue button frame. Oh yeah, that's the bad sound key. Okay, that's not World of Warcrafty, that's Warcraft 3. So that's good. So we don't care about sound key. I thought there was some like commented out line or something in here. Maybe not. Maybe it just works. Yeah, so then we load the DB files client sound entries. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find out. Dark Forest. I guess I played Dark Forest before. Should we go to a different one? Bloodstone Mesa. That sounds fun. Okay, so I'm in the Dark Forest over here. Now you can see under my necropolis is we have an Elf Ranger. That's pretty cool. Oh, look at that. So yeah, there seems to be some issues with the loading. I recall that yeah, zone text string. Is this a part of the minimap? Oh, the minimap's not actually working when I click on it. So you can see a lot of the UI is having issues, but it is sort of kind of loading. I really don't want to have zone text string in my face like that. That's pretty unfortunate. Zone text string, subzone text string. I mean, these are unfortunate functions to have. But we do seem to have a road here. Obviously, you don't want to aggro the centaurs. If I get too close to the centaurs, they would kill me, and then I couldn't play WoW anymore because we don't have release spirit. How do you run up one of these? Oh, you just do it. Okay. Hey, look, a dragon. Should I try to get killed by a dragon? No, one of the GitHub contributors was making lightning attack on War Smash, but we didn't do that yet. So apparently turning on the UI was easier than I thought it would be. But I really don't like zone text string, and I really don't like subzone text string. I kind of wish those were not there. So this is one of the problems that the UI has. And I recall looking into this, and one of the big... Oh, that's interesting. So trees currently don't block me, but this thing blocks me. It's really hard to get back up that. Okay, you can't just run up that. Okay, that makes sense. Subzone text string. So this is really in my face, and you can see some of these UI components, like toggling the minimap, don't seem to work in the way that they historically worked in some of my videos. And I think the difference is actually that the World of Warcraft UI is using a different version of Lua, and I started hacking it so that it would actually work with the version of Lua that I found for my stuff that I'm using in Java. But I think that's pretty fun. You guys ever notice that when this character runs, I think I might have mentioned this in one of the previous videos, but when the character's running, you know, if I go right and left and they actually shimmy different ways, or like if I jump and then land, you can have a situation where as you're landing, the legs are running. So the character's doing two animations at the same time, which is physically impossible on Warcraft 3. So I feel like it is funny to mention how I did have to edit the render engine to even get this far. But anyway, yeah, so we've got Lua in here, and we've got this kind of Lua UI. And I don't really know... Yeah, how do I get zone text string out of my face? Because I don't really like that. Zone text string, zone... subzone texturing. They're clearly in the wrong place, by the way. I don't know what they are, but I don't think they should be there. I guess maybe zone texturing is like, you know, it would say in the center of the screen, like, welcome to Moonglade or something, but I don't know. We don't want to do that. But hey, I can run on this little road. So yeah, all we need to do now, I guess, is just go to Eastern Kingdoms and get zone texturing out of my face. That seems like a good goal. Oh, then you see my character was floating a little bit. So the weird case of the character floating up and down comes from the height functions and the jumping and the interpolation, and they have some kind of problem. So in some instances, sometimes it looks perfect, you know, you're just like jumping. But sometimes you get in a situation where if you're like, you jump onto, I don't know, some other thing, the height interpolation is bad. I guess right now, now that I'm looking at it, it looks okay. But let's get subzone texturing out of my face. You know, that's pretty annoying. And just to be sure we're not on an old version of the code, let's go get killed by some centaurs, and that proves that our hero here is a unit, which I think is inevitable. I think we know that, but can I even get up to the centaurs? Oh yeah, there we go. Hey guys, how are you doing? Oh, there we go. Alright, dead. Subzone texturing that. Alright. Alt-Z. Meanwhile, over here, yeah, I don't even know where on the map that was that happened. I got kind of confused by it all. It's not that one, it's not that one, it's not that one. It's pretty far away, right? Maybe it's not really worth trying to find it. Oh yeah, there you go, up north. Died up north, okay. Yeah, without the map, that's kind of rough. That would be really nice to add the World of Warcraft map, but I'm probably not going to do that today because that would be a substantial programming effort. I think mostly I just wish I could get subzone texturing out of my face, and that's kind of the primary goal for me. UI parent add tooltip frame. We probably want the tooltip frame, right? I don't know what's going on with that. This automatically, yeah, okay, cool. So tooltip frame gets created. Maybe there are tooltips, we'll see. But we definitely don't want subzone thing in our face. That's pretty annoying. It's also interesting, if you want to have right click to face a direction in WoW, it'll desync in multiplayer because it doesn't send the network connection the right way, but we can turn it on here for fun. Sure, so those are just some extra things, but yeah, I don't know. As far as like trying to fix the UI, it's very difficult for me to change the Lua version that we're using when we load the Lua scripts. So that I don't really have figured out, but I do think that changing the Lua script version is hard, but what seemed relatively easy last time I did this is if you actually extract the all of the Lua script UI stuff and then have your own copy, a sort of a working copy you can play with in the WoW add-ons to try to fix the fact that the Lua version is wrong, which is quite unfortunate, really. And it is a bit like, I'm trying to remember how it was even different. Let's see, is there Lua version, Lua for each loop, something like that. For each function iterates through elements in a collection. So, oh, it's not even for loop table. Okay, it's actually the older loop, I think. The older structure in these things. Maybe this like I pairs. It's something like I pairs wasn't working right. I pairs and pairs. I don't think they're doing that in these old World of Warcraft scripts. So that was kind of where these things run into a problem. And how do you fix that, you know? So I do actually wonder if it's worth, maybe I should just try to fix how I read it. So if you think about Lua environment or whatever, one of these things, that something here has a function for loading load file, maybe game UI load Lua file. Oh yeah, here you go, load Lua file. So we have this input stream reader. I wonder if I could just kind of cheat and hack the Lua code as I'm reading it. So there's this thing called reader, which is an abstract class. What kind of abstract methods does it have? Abstract read and abstract close. Okay. So yeah, I guess kind of a lazy way to do this that might work would be if you think about, and this is kind of stupid. This might not be a long-term solution, but if I make if I create sort of like a file contents string builder thing, we can actually run Lua on a string reader of the string of the contents, basically. And then that allows us to hack the contents of every Lua file ever loaded, which is actually better and easier than what I described earlier, because then as we're loading the files, we'll just change them on the fly to the Lua version that we wanted to have, and then you won't have this problem where I had to use custom files. Because ideally, right, you just want to use the files as they were. I think that makes a lot of sense. What's the problem here? We don't seem to have... Oh yeah, okay. So I'm used to buffered readers, so I'm going to do one of those. Okay. My reader is now going to be a buffered reader of the other reader, which allows me to call read line to read entire line at a time, which then allows me to say file contents append the line, and then file contents append some sort of new line token. So that kind of works. It takes in the file, and then this is less efficient. This is less efficient than the code was before, because before passing things to Lua, we load the entire file into RAM. So it might make the loading time slightly longer, but what it means is that inside of line, I can do some sort of hack where I can say if line contains 4, and I can play with that a little bit. Which does mean we're going to want a sample of one of these that actually has a problem, and that's a bit more difficult to get. Let's see if we run... Where was I running the thing? What were these different things I was running? Yeah, like not that one, but maybe in this folder, like this. This probably had a Gradle. What is that? Okay. Gradle W run one of these, maybe. Might allow us to extract the files. So we could go and try to figure out, yeah, skip that error, don't care about that. Cool. So yeah, in interface, in our client, we have all these files. And it would be really nice to know, what's an example of a file with a bad for loop. So I want to say the frame along the bottom that was supposed to be the bar, like the options, like the bar that opens different kinds of things like your spell book and your other stuff. Seemed like that was messed up. We should figure out why that's messed up. Buttons, casting bar, character frame. Combo frames, combo points. Dialogue frame. Obviously, you could be more familiar with this sort of thing than I am, but so if it's not glues, I wonder. That's actually kind of funny. So actually, it's interesting to think the main menu is programmed in the same way. I wonder if you could, if it would be fun for someone to try to use like the World of Warcraft main menu, like as in terms of the buttons you click through. I didn't do that, but it would be here if someone wanted to do it. Yeah, I don't know. As far as the actual buttons along the bottom, it is interesting that we don't have main menu bar. Is it not? Main menu bar dwarf. Main menu bar human. Oh, there's like a different bar. Is it? Is this true that humans have a different action bar? I don't think I knew that. End cap dwarf, end cap human. Huh. Somehow I just got always used to the one. I didn't know you could get a lion if you were a dwarf. I wonder if they scratched that. Sure. Anyway, that doesn't have any XML in it. And so there's also not any Lua. So I guess that's the problem. Is really for the Lua, I'm going to want maybe main menu bar. I'm not sure. Let's put that in some test folder, tests. We're not really gonna, like, I don't actually want us to have to edit this file, but I think it makes sense that we want to look at the file. So if you look at the file, oh, what is this? The file's empty. This is not the file we wanted. Okay, so it's not that one. Okay, main menu bar micro buttons might be that. Let's have a look. Micro buttons. Okay, what's going on with micro buttons? So in micro buttons, this might be, yeah, game menu, friends menu, all these things. This one probably has a for loop. It's definitely for loops that are the problem. No, okay, no for loop. I wonder if the minimap is responsible for that, like, sub frame thing or not. Does the minimap have a problem? Minimap.lua, minimap.xml. Is there a sub frame of the sub? No, there's not. Okay. Because it seemed to me that the main menu bar micro buttons had some significant problems. It didn't seem to work for us, but somehow it worked in the other stuff. And I think that's interesting, you know, that why does it work in my other videos, but it doesn't work now when we're trying to build it again? That's a good question. Main menu bar, main menu bag buttons. Does one of these things trigger one of these other things that leads to some sort of problem? I'm not quite sure. Does this have a for loop? Oh yeah, here you go. Unknown frames. Although that's like a numerical for loop, so then you would kind of expect that it would work. Which is also interesting because it points out we want to make sure that kind of for loop continues to work. But I still think there's some kind of for loop that was an issue. Maybe we can find this in spellbook frame or something. I know I opened the spellbook a bunch, and that seemed like one that probably did not initially work. For parentheses, do, for.star do. No? Okay. Scrap for and star.lua. It's just doing formatting. Okay. Then what would be the reason that the main menu bar micro buttons don't load? And then they do load in my other video. I mean, it's kind of weird, right? Main menu bar micro buttons. What got changed? Main menu bar, micro buttons. Well, I'll tell you what, here's an idea. I'm going to cheat a little bit. Let's actually diff main menu bar, micro buttons against, I guess the Lua script, it's probably the Lua script that changed, against a folder that I happen to have on my computer that no one else has. That's going to tell us what changed, and that'll be informative. What is it? Scratch folder, or smash extras, or smash, scratch. Yeah, there we go. Scratch folder. Okay, great, because this has third person, interface, whatever else is in there. Glue XML. Then we want this main menu bar micro button. No? How is that not in there? Oh, it's frame XML, not glue XML. That makes sense. Frame XML. Okay, main menu bar micro buttons. Lua. What changed? Nothing changed. Okay. All right. Well, there's surely some of the files changed, right? Surely, diff spellbook frame. Something was modified. We just don't know what it is that made things run a whole lot better. Apparently, nothing I've looked at so far. So then we're back to what do we think is loading inside of that, which is exploding. So I guess this is where I'm going to grep for loop in this other folder that I'm mysteriously pulling out of nowhere from the last time I did this. Star.lua. So you'll notice some of these have like I pairs, UI parent. Let's check out UI parent. That sounds promising. Something that would be used everywhere and probably busted. All right. UI parent. UI parent.lua. Yeah, here you go. I edited the code and I put I pairs on stuff if it was for thing, in thing. So this is the thought process I have now. We want to make this easier for future people after me, which means we want to fix every loop like this without actually editing the files. So if line contains for, then what? Or even, actually, we have trimmed line. So if I trim the line, so there's no indentation at the beginning, and then if it starts with for space and it ends with do, space do. The interesting problem here is we definitely saw there would be false positives in that kind of thing. So, oh, sorry, let me go back here. Sorry, okay. Do one of these maybe? Yeah, okay. So we do that. If it starts with for something do, we have to sort of port this code because our Lua interpreter is not the right version, which means we need to add I pairs. And so at that point, if line index of in, basically in index, so the index of the text in, if in index is not -1, meaning that it is present, then what we want to do is this thing here. We could maybe make this into constant. No. What's the hotkey for that these days? Refactor, extract constant, in string. Okay, great. So if it is not -1 and in is inside of the text, then yeah, then we want to have like we replace to replace, which is all of the text in the line from the in index plus in string length until line dot index of space do or something like that. Perhaps the last index of space do. So by looking at that, we have this portion to replace, and we have replace start as a value, and we have replace end. And what that means is that we should be able to say line equals line, or equals like, yeah, line dot substring from 0 to the replacement start plus I pairs plus to replace plus close parenthesis plus line substring at replacement end and onward. And what this should do is effectively wrap it in I pairs, like what we were seeing when I edited the code, but edit all of them unilaterally. Maybe, I don't know. Or it'll just explode. But I think that seems fun. It seems fun to try it. We will see if it works. Anderhall. Let's go check out Anderhall. That sounds fun. Maybe. It's quite a loading bar on Anderhall. Ah, Anderhall crashed. Okay. So this is where you're going to want to see in that logs folder, why do we crash? There's probably a really obvious reason. Let's see. Yeah, Lua errors, Lua errors, Lua errors, some kind of Lua errors. Cannot invoke. UI parent is null. It's a lot of Lua errors. Do we have any Lua errors with I pairs? If I refresh that folder, do we get a new log file that we're looking at? No. So maybe I already refreshed it. .UI parent is null. Oh, third person UI 152. I broke this. Okay, 152. I was in here and I was like, why don't I uncomment this tooltip thing? But we can't do that because we don't know what UI parent is. I don't even know how we would know what UI parent is. Apparently, there is just nothing referring to it at all, and it's just not really there. So yeah, this tooltip frame seems to exist, but yeah, we don't want to put it in UI parent. Yeah, I think I broke it. Which is interesting. So maybe it's not the Lua that I broke it with. Obviously there are other Lua errors happening that probably should eventually be fixed, but in the near short term, it was just me breaking it. That was the problem. Alright, great. So let's get back in. We'll see if we can fix this. And cool. Awesome. Here's our units. Here's our dude. Apparently we still have subzone text string, zone text string in our face, which is pretty unfortunate. I would really like to make that go away. I don't remember what or how is setting that. You can see I can still click the action bar buttons and stuff, but they just don't do anything. Yeah, look at that. That's a fun like wall thing. I can't jump up that, can I? Oh, you could almost wall jump it, but apparently not. Also, then she stops running. It's just like messed up. It's funny how there's also walk backwards. I mean, this actually is like a Warcraft unit doing all these animations, right? Which is great. This is why I don't think you could use a ported model for this, because she has these animations like shimmying left and right that aren't even on Warcraft 3. But yeah, I don't know. Can we wall jump up there to the statue? This is how you know it's good, is if you can wall jump to the statue. Oh, I think I'm gonna do it. Oh yeah. Okay, I wall jumped up here. How about that? Oh no, I jumped off. Okay, never mind. Anyway, yeah, there you go. So I don't think the physics are quite right. Historically, the physics on solid objects like this were not always enabled. and it was actually, I was making custom maps to enable them. So, you know, you might be able to jump, like, you know, I don't know, something to do with the tavern. Sometimes buildings had physics, but almost nothing else did. Yeah, there you go. So the tavern doesn't even have good physics. It has like a little bit of physics on the roof. Okay. Oh, dog. Look at that. I don't know. Yeah, you just get sucked in. You try to play World of Warcraft, the Frozen Throne, you just get sucked on in by the dog, dude. Yeah. But I definitely want to get zone texturing out of my face. I really would like to do that. And, you know, obviously the... yeah, also the shadow is extremely wrong on this. Somehow it's like above my head. But it's kind of funny that if you jump onto the bridge, you can go under the bridge and over the bridge both. I mean, I feel like that's sort of... apparently I can run through the legs of the bridge. That shouldn't be that way. But, yeah, you can go under the bridge and over the bridge both. It's just that we don't have water physics. This is kind of revealing of how many issues this has. Alright, can I jump up here and use that to get all the way up there? And let's hope the Murlocs don't kill me. Come on, come on, come on. Yeah, how about that? I got out. Okay. Running on this is not really, it doesn't really work very well, it seems like. You have to be literally on it. It's using some kind of linearized chunk form. You could fix that, I'm sure. Oh yeah, did you guys see that I made it that if I right click, I'll just change direction? Oh, it's actually not good. It's interpolated with the Warcraft 3 unit interpolation. It's another reason not to enable that feature, I guess. Okay, usually I was just using the arrow keys. They kind of work better. You know. Alright, hey Murlocs, how you doing? There you go. Alright, so I don't really think I succeeded. It didn't really seem like the UI was any better than it was before. I wonder if we could put it in debugger and try to see, is this ever actually happening? Is there ever a case where we're hitting this? And maybe try to print it out. I think that makes sense to look for. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put it in the windowed mode here. It seems like this makes sense. Anderhall looked cool. Let's go back to Anderhall. But did I even run it in debug mode? I thought about it. I guess we'll find out. Line starts with 4 and ends with do. Maybe. If we don't hit our debug line, then we definitely didn't find what we were looking for in that regard. I guess this takes a little bit longer to load in debug mode. That's a little unfortunate too. I mean, maybe like we said, the loading time might be worse with these sort of inline conversions of strings, but apparently they're not even converting. Yeah, this didn't even fire. Okay. So that would explain why nothing got better in the UI, because our port here did not work. I wonder if that means that iPairs is the old one. So actually, if I go to this, does this have iPairs? No, iPairs is definitely not, because it probably makes sense. Like the World of Warcraft devs back then probably said iPairs is annoying. They just want to loop the thing itself, which honestly does seem fairly logical. But yeah, I'm not sure. Then what are we not finding? You know, space in space. You would think that would be here. Space in space. It seems like it works. What are we missing? For index value in whatever do. Or do we not end up hitting this part? We didn't do this. If line dot contains for space, maybe. Yeah, it's just that line. All right, we can try that. Just try to like do some basic testing, see where we end up. Cool. Yeah, let's see where we end up. Trying to just see if, you know, there's some way here that I'm overlooking something really obvious. Debug the code a little bit. I guess like if this thing never happens and we never get to that part, you could imagine maybe we're just not loading the Lua at all. But I kind of suspected that we were loading it. Maybe I didn't run with debug. Yeah, wait a minute. Did I not run this in debug mode? Is that what got me? Because it seems impossible that there's no line containing the text for. Kind of messed up my loading here, I think. It's definitely loading slower with debug mode. Very slow loading, crunching through the files. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Crunch, 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 crunching through the files. But will we get it where we want it? Okay, so it crunched through all the files and never hit my debug line here, which is starting to make me think maybe we're not really loading Lua files. Maybe something about loading XML files is happening, and that's all. So I wonder, load TOC file. I wonder if the file is an XML. Is there something that ends up loading Lua directly from that XML? So like if we look at, you know, something where it has a minimap.lua and minimap.xml, does minimap.xml just call up minimap.lua? Some kind of include statement. Yeah, script file. Okay, so that's the problem. So that makes sense, I think, that we're probably not using the load Lua function that I was changing. I don't even know who was even calling that, actually. Load Lua file. Inflate XML. Oh, if script.equals. Well, wait a minute. So that seems like that would do that. TOC file. Load Lua file. So who else is calling run Lua? Maybe that's another question. Is there other stuff? No? Alright. What am I not seeing here? This is a bit strange. This is a bit of a strange problem. TOC file, but it just seems like this is fundamentally not doing what I want it to do. It's fundamentally not finding the text for in the given line that's being read. And I don't really understand why. I'm actually curious, yeah, do we ever load any Lua from this function? Do we ever load any Lua from this function? I don't know. I just, I'd like to make this look as good as it did before without having to go and pull files out that are like mysterious files that only I have. Because that's the upside of this, right? Everything in this video is something that someone other than me could do. And I thought that's kind of cool, but I don't know. Now it seems like we're a little bit sunk here. So let's see where we get. Let's see where we get. So if this doesn't reach the breakpoint, which was set in the load Lua file function, are we to believe that we really, truly are not ever calling this function, and as a result, somehow we're just never doing anything like it at all? I mean, that's a weird thing, if that's how that works. It's actually like quite odd if that's how that works. Okay, so the Lua functions are just all not at all loading. Yeah, let me actually try above that. Now I'm starting to think, are we only calling on bad file names and none of the Lua's loading at all, and that's why there's random stuff in my face? That's really interesting. That would explain a lot, actually. But what is that? Did I even run into debug mode? I might have not run into debug mode, and that's kind of unfortunate, if true. I should have windowed it, because I guess if we do hit the breakpoint, I won't even know it when it's full screen. It's like kind of annoying. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, file name, interface, frame XML, global strings. So who's calling this? So load TLC file is calling this. Let's see the link for what loads this. So I'm starting to wonder, and this is totally silly and ridiculous that this would happen, but is it possible that because we're loading this from inside of an MPQ, that we don't automatically, data source, MPQ data source is not maybe automatically correcting file paths? Is that a real thing? Has string, looks up the archive path directly. That's so sad. Okay, so folder data source. Folder data source fixes the file path. Okay, yes. So here's an interesting thing. We're emulating a Windows game on Linux. This is where I'm going wrong. I'm emulating a Windows game on Linux. Other people wouldn't even probably have this problem. Actually, they would have this problem. I think it's consistent because it's Java, but it's a stupid problem to have. So load Lua file was never firing because file name needs to be filename.replace any / with a backward slash to support MPQ lookups and the way that the MPQ lookups work. And that is just really unfortunate that is something I was forgetting. I wasted this long on it. But you'd want to do that. You'd want to do that. Now let's have a look. I'm not even in debug mode now. I'm just going for it. I'm hoping that a whole lot more stuff is going to work in the code. And maybe it's just going to be like my other videos. Maybe the annoying text in my face will go away. I'll be able to open the spellbook. Actually, I shouldn't claim to be able to open the spellbook. That's probably too much. I doubt it will be that nice, but we'll find out. Maybe it'll just crash and we'll find out that my auto insert of I pairs is wrong. Okay, well, we got into the game, so that's sort of promising. Oh, no, it doesn't actually look any better or different than it did before, which I find to be unfortunate. So I definitely need to do more debugging. Alright, yeah, we need more debugging on this. More debugging. Also, how do we get to Eastern Kingdoms? This is the original question the user asked, and I've been doing this side quest of the user interface before I even go to Eastern Kingdoms. I should probably go to Eastern Kingdoms here and stop doing user interface. You could imagine a person could spend a pretty long time trying to get the user interface to go in this system. You know, probably a lot of time. I didn't do that. I did a very little bit of time, and as a result, we have these problems that we've seen. But let's take a look and see if we can get to our breakpoint with the file name and find out how it is that replacing / with / doesn't magically make it work. You know, it's like maybe, actually I'm not really sure. Okay, so this is globalstrings.lua. So globalstrings.lua is just a strings file. It's not really going to help us very much. I would actually like to see, is there another point here? Add friend label. Enter name of friend to add for adding a friend. Okay, great. So this is like, this prints a bunch, I guess. Okay. This one, null / world frame.lua. So this is where we went wrong. So trying to inflate this on a null current working directory is ridiculous. Okay, so what is current working directory really? Load TOC file, current working directory is null. Load TOC file here, get the main elements, inflate multiple XMLs, XML file, get parent. So, get parent doesn't work on an imaginary virtualized file whose file path has backward slashes because I'm not on Windows. That's so sad. I mean, that is stupid, and that's the highest level of stupid. So this was using some kind of hack, file.getParent, instead of file name cutoff as line dot. It's basically the mathematical maximum of lines last index of backward slash and lines last index of forward slash. This is a stupid problem to have. And then instead of the parent of the file, we have to use the file name cutoff, right? So like line.substring file name cutoff +1, and put that in there, and then just run it again and try to see. I guess we could just run it without debug mode and see if that fixes the problem. That is another really stupid problem to have, and it detracts from the fun when technologists do things like that. And I think that Bill Gates and Linus Torvalds should probably work out whether files are separated by / or backward slash. They should definitely go and agree on that. They might have been fighting on it for 20 years or 30 years or 50 years. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. But they should go and they should agree that files are always separated by one of the kinds of slashes. And I think probably it would be the / and Linux wins and Windows loses. And that's just how it's going to be. Okay, so this doesn't seem any better. It seems like none of our scripts ran. So we need to run it in a debugger again, as apparently my idea didn't fix it. I don't really know why, but I think that I'm very close. I think that what I was looking at would be very close to the problem. And I guess if someone was on Windows, maybe they wouldn't have this problem. So, you know, I'm over here on a computer for paranoid people, running entirely open source programs so that I don't have to use Windows. But there are other human beings who are not going to do that, and then they wouldn't have these problems. So that's kind of interesting to think about that. Or at least not all of these problems. I guess one of them, the MPQ lookup problem, would happen even on Windows. And the reason I didn't have it when I played this before is that I don't think I was using the WoW models directly. I think I was using a folder that I extracted them to. So that is kind of interesting. But yeah, okay, what do we got? So global strings. So I jump past global strings. Okay, and then the next one. World frame XML. Okay, all right. Did you guys see what I did? Any software developers watching me who are really familiar with code are going to be really familiar with how I went wrong in this last one. So basically, I did line substring to the cutoff, or sorry, line substring after the cutoff, but we actually wanted the substring until the cutoff. That's so stupid. That might fix it. That might fix it. I probably should just put all these code changes on GitHub if somebody wants them. Like if they watch this video and they're like, wow, those are some great code changes, but I didn't want to have to make them, which is a totally reasonable thing for a user to think. I should probably put these code changes on the GitHub, so I'll probably do that for the world to use. These are, you know, as I've mentioned other times, I'm not a distributor of Warcraft. I don't own that, but I'm pretty sure if I want to write some stupid code to replace Lua for loops with iPairs, you know, that's something I can have the copyright on that stupidity because I came up with that stupidity right now while I was sitting there, and I could probably publish that and do whatever I want. Look at that! Now we have like the spell book. Oh, that's so nice. And I don't have all the stupid stuff in my face. And I have the spell book, and I have an open and closing minimap zone text thing, and I can go to, is this the world map? Yeah, world map area label, so you can imagine trying to make the world map actually open, and it feels so much closer and alive when we actually have the Lua script running, even though I don't have tab targeting. I would really like to have tab targeting, right? Because I mean, let's imagine I'm playing this and I run over here to this dog. I mean, we should be able to tab target. Never mind. Let's save the dog. Dogs are kind of nice. Tab target to the rock golem with the tab key, which isn't working, and then click this, you know, 1 on the action bar and fight him. You know, like that should be a function that I would have instead of having to go in here and try to figure out. She's dead probably. Where'd she go? I didn't go very far. Oh yeah, dead. So trying to go over here and fight that way. Wait a minute. Why is this rock golem 2 rock golems? Oh, yeah, okay. It's control clicking the rock golem because I used a control key and it got stuck. Just ignore that. Alright, well anyway. You know, you guys know what I mean. So we fixed the UI, which is fun, because now we have the UI working as well as it was before when I manually edited it, but we didn't have to manually edit it. We just edited the code to edit all the files ubiquitously and just make it go. That's pretty good. That's a good change. But I think we want to go to Eastern Kingdoms. I think that this guy's really asking for going to Eastern Kingdoms, which is funny because in reality, technologically, what I'm doing here is not totally that. But it does seem like, so if I go back to this folder that I'm in, WoW 3, the Frozen Throne, and we look at one of the things we downloaded was this Scarlet Enclave map. I think it's interesting to think, can we go, before we try to do something fancy like going to the Eastern Kingdoms, let's try to go to that Scarlet Enclave map that was played before. I mean, that just seems like we're sort of building back the technological stack to where we were, and then we're going to go beyond. So in order to do that, we need to go to Core Assets Maps, where we're storing our maps. And let's make a folder here where we'll call it War 3, because all these are War 3 maps. And we're going to start to want to put WoW maps in here instead. So those are War 3 maps. So now we have, did I copy Death Knight starting bundle? Can I put that in here? Apparently not. Alright, Death Knight starting bundle, copy, back. Yeah, forward, okay, right here. Death Knight starting bundle, great. So that might mean that I can play that map. Now, there's another issue we're going to have if we try to go to Death Knight starting bundle, which is that Death Knight starting bundle map is, oh, this is weird, all the maps are still here. Yeah, if you click Death Knight starting bundle, it just exits, it just crashes. And this is really stupid. I don't like this. I'm against this. This is because Death Knight starting bundle is a reforged map, so you need reforged emulation to go to it. So we could spend the next hour doing that to try to get reforgedism, but there is another idea. And the other idea is, can we just try to load Eastern Kingdoms, like Eastern Kingdoms, and not the specific Scarlet Enclave map? And I think that would be much more difficult, right? I think if we're being honest, that's going to be much more difficult. If I go to hiveworkshop.com and I look for, what is this? Community forums. There was a post a while ago in editing tools where there was kind of this tool idea that I described. Maybe, I don't know if they scratched this, but I had this idea and I described on Hive how it would work to try to do tile sets. Yeah, here we go. So this is one technological solution. If you think about getting Eastern Kingdoms, you can take as an input a WoW terrain. You can computer generate a Warcraft 3 terrain that corresponds, and then you can try to make Warcraft 3 have World of Warcraft tile sets on it. So one idea would be to try to do that, and then programmatically see if you could convert the actual Eastern Kingdoms map from our World of Warcraft file that we're looking at in a computer software way to a map that would load on what we're playing right now. And the downside to that is that that requires creating a new tool. Right? Now you could, like Gordo suggested in the comments section, you could try to use an existing tool to do that. You could say, well, maybe you just want to use the Warcraft Sandbox guy's tool. But his tool was not actually making Warcraft 3 terrain data, or maybe it was, but it was not doing this. It was not coloring that terrain. It was like solid color terrain, and then he was turning it invisible, and he was drawing a WoW terrain under it. And this is actually taking the Warcraft 3 terrain system and within its limitations trying to make it emulate World of Warcraft. So we have this technological problem of, if you're going to try to get Eastern Kingdoms as a map, you'd want to do one of those two things, and one of them requires developing a new tool, probably, which would be the tool for constructing this kind of map like I was doing, and the other one would be figuring out how to use Warcraft Sandbox's tool. And if you want to use Warcraft Sandbox's tool, you need a much newer version of World of Warcraft than what I have, because I'm using a very old one to make it easy to sort of interoperate Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft in the same context. So that's interesting. And how are we going to do that? I'm inclined to want to make a new tool because then I understand what's going on. But that has obvious downsides. So one downside is I'm not really familiar with World of Warcraft maps. So you might burn a lot of time making a tool to read them when you don't know how they're stored. I also don't really have a program to like preview them to know if they are what I think they are. So to try to understand that, to investigate a little bit that direction, I think we want to start with what do we find inside of, let's see, yeah, what do we find if we go back to WoW stuff and files, data. There actually are world maps. There's world maps Azeroth, and Azeroth is just one world map, apparently, whatever this thing is. Not quite sure what this is. So if you want to know what these are, what I found is you just Google it. Okay, WL and WDL MPQ, and it probably comes up with someone who explains what they are. Here you go, MPQ WowDev. All right, MPQ file header, blah blah blah. Let's see if we can find WDL files. There you go, WDL, WTL. Okay, cool. So we have these two files, WDL, WDT. WDL files contain a low-resolution height map for a world. It's probably what the WoW client uses to draw the solid color mountain ranges in the background in front of the sky, but behind the fog and the rest of the scenery. It can also be conveniently used to construct a mini-map, but there is no water level information, so the best guess is 0 sea level, which results in some lower than sea level areas being blue in WoW map view minimap. Oh well. Cool. Somebody then goes on to talk about Wrath of the Lich King or something. I don't think I care about Wrath of the Lich King because I would probably be using an older version. So those are WDL. So apparently that's just a low resolution height map. The L is like world definition low or something. Now, it does also look like this is by default going to version 18, which is surely the wrong version. Is there like version 17? No, version 16? Version 15? Okay, so apparently when we have an older WDL file, that's probably going to be not great if they don't tell us how to read it. But what about WDT files? Exactly which map tiles are present in a world. It can also reference a global WMO with a chunked file structure. So my intuition is that this is not probably at all the format of Warcraft 3 maps. I'm just saying. And getting this to be a Warcraft 3 map is probably some effort. Probably. Exactly how much effort is a good question. I think that it's probably within the realm of possibility. If we use a tool, what did that jump to? That's some other thing. If we actually get this tool from this, where you take a WoW texture and you generate a Warcraft 3 texture, and then you load the WoW tile sets. This was like Theralos, right? But I guess that's not an Azeroth. You load the WoW tile sets into the Warcraft 3, and then you have Warcraft 3 tile sets in a Warcraft 3 map, then you could imagine loading something like this. But when this guy talks about map tiles and they're chunked and stuff, it does seem like we might actually might really want to have a better sort of understanding of this, and we might want to chunk them into individual Warcraft 3 maps and maybe put teleports between them or something. I feel like if we had something even relatively close to that, our odds of success increase dramatically. So there's another thing that this is kind of glossing over. To even imagine if I write a tool right now that reads this and outputs Warcraft 3, what we're glossing over when we do that is that the Warcraft 3 emulator has a very specific map size limit. So we're going to have to think about that, because that's a big problem for this. I'm going to take a break. I might come back to this. If not, then it'll end up in like video 3 or something, where we address, how to really go to Eastern Kingdoms by figuring out what Eastern Kingdoms is. And again, it kind of makes me sad. I feel like this is stupid. I would almost rather to do this and then just draw my own map. So like part of the Eastern Kingdoms is like Westfall, and I've made videos where I was running around Westfall, right? But it wasn't really Westfall. I just went to tileset Westfall and like drew stuff, and I feel like that's kind of fun. Why can't it be that simple? Why do we need their maps? Why not get some more virtual real estate? Make my own little world. I feel like that's more fun. When it's keyed into Warcraft 3, you can make maps. That's how Warcraft 3 is. So anyway, yep, I'm gonna take a break, and we'll see how we get maps.